Greetings, beloved. Thank you for joining us today. Have you ever wondered why so many women are not equipped for marriage? It's because being a woman does not make you a bride, no more than being a woman makes you a mother. As with so many things in life, there's a process that leads us to our desired end. If your desired end is to be a bride according to biblical standards, then you have tuned in at the perfect time. Chapter 2 of the book of Titus tells us that the aged women should take the younger women through the process of becoming not just brides for a day, but brides for a lifetime. So stay tuned for more of Bridesmaid with me, your host, Renee Bolden. Greetings again, everyone. It is good to see you all. Good to be able to do another Bridesmaids discussion. I had mentioned, for those who may be tuning in at whatever time you may view this through whatever platform, I had already kind of spoken to everyone here, just kind of briefly mentioning that we are going to include and incorporate a brief discussion with the minors that are in the audience as well as we go through these, as the Lord lead me. We will do that. And ultimately, what I'm going to ask you as a parent to do, it'll be very brief, but as I understand it, as I feel led, as often as we're able to do it, we will continue the discussion based on their answers. So the parents should write the answers down that they're, especially the younger children, write the answers down, not only for us to discuss it here, but also that you might continue the discussion at home about whatever their answers might be, so we can make sure they feel like they are included in the discussions and not just sitting here as spectators, and also giving them a sense of preparing for marriage. Although it might seem like a long way away for an 8 or 9-year-old, we don't start preparing for things when the day arrives, so this is a time of preparation as they're growing, they're learning, they're seeing things, they're processing different things, and we want to at least get an idea of what they're thinking and make sure their thoughts are in the right direction about marriage. Because many of us know that our thoughts were not in the right place, but we didn't find out until, some of us, after we got married. We didn't find out until we moved into adulthood that we were thinking about it the wrong way. And so that's just one way that we are able to really include them in on it, make sure they are feeling like they're a part of it and getting something out of it. It also kind of challenges them to pay attention and to pay attention to what's being said to them and how they will answer. So we will have a brief segment. I would really love to ask a question today to them really quickly. And again, if you're watching, this is for your children as well. Do we have a microphone already? We have one. Okay, so I'm just going to ask the adults to please let's not depend on the children to work by themselves. Just work quickly to move the mic once they give an answer. I'm going to ask 2 questions, or a question and a follow-up, that I just want each of them to answer quickly. We're not going to discuss it today, but I want the question asked today so that we may, again, Lord willing, and start the discussion on it next week. And my question to you, Sophie, Jayla, Samora, all of you young people, including you, Ava, I want to know, do you want to get married to a man when you get older? You know that we believe in the Bible and we teach from a biblical perspective. We learn from a biblical perspective. So I have to be very clear in what I'm asking, because I know that people all over the world have different beliefs. Everybody don't believe the same thing. So I want to be clear when I ask this question like this, just to be clear what I'm asking, and that it may not be all inclusive of all beliefs. And that's okay, because we're just kind of dealing with the King James Version and what we're taught according to the word. So the question is, do you want to get married when you get older, and why? We need to move quickly to give them get
Yes.
the mics. Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Why?
Because get whooped all the time.
Okay. Thank you very much for your honesty, Jayla.
Yes, ma'am.
Answer the question why. Why is it? What do you like about marriage?
Because you can have children.
Good answer. You can give the mic to Ava. Thank you.
I would say definitely, and um, I guess just to prove my womanhood and
Okay.
to yeah.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. hmm
Yes, ma'am. And I want to get married because I want to have children.
Thank you very much for your honesty.
I want to marry because I want children.
Okay. Thank you.
To get married, because I want uh to do
Okay. Thank you, Addison. She says she wants to get married also. Thank you.
I want to get married because I like having a husband and children.
Okay. Thank you for your answer. Sage is behind you.
Yes, ma'am. I want to get married because I want to be fruitful and multiply.
Okay, thank you very much for your answer. So again, parents, you could turn the mic off and pass it back. Parents, I want you to definitely take note of your children's answers, and we are going to, again, Lord willing and we live, we will talk more about that next week. So one thing I want to share before we get into any further into our discussion, this is something I'm not even sure how it fits in, but oftentimes that's the way these things work. I get a little hint of something, a note, and I feel led to share it. So I will share this. I was asked a question. Well, let me back up. I'm not even sure now how long ago, maybe a year or two ago, some people expressed one of the ways that they wanted to be a blessing to their shepherd. Because I think we may have been talking about maybe some ministry vision things and where people's strengths and weaknesses are, where they could be a help in the ministry. But in addition to just the ministry, maybe the natural, the physical things that people could do. But one of the things that was expressed by several people was they wanted to be able to cook and provide a meal for Apostle Bolden, just to be a blessing to him. So with that, of course, people did what they said they would do, and they do that. And I'll just say thank you on behalf of both of us for being a blessing in that manner, because it truly is a blessing. And I was asked the question when, I guess, by somebody who just wasn't familiar with kind of the way we do things at home, who was there and asked the question like, when do you get to cook or something like that. I said, well, not very often anymore. Some days I may cook all week because maybe, possible to me just feel like eating something else that's not already cooked. And I may, aside from me cooking breakfast or brunch, maybe lunch for him, I mean a dinner, a large dinner meal, like I don't get that opportunity like I used to because people are being a blessing. And they're doing that. And I may have said, I miss cooking, but I also, and this is the point that I want to stress in what I'm saying, I also appreciate the blessing because at the time that people expressed their interest in doing that for him, I was not as busy then as I am now. And so it works out that although I don't get to do that one thing that I love to do as much as I love to do it, I can still see the blessing in it. So when I am cooking something other than the normal breakfast or brunch or lunch, whatever it is, I just simply enjoy it. The important thing is that we have to understand how to move from one season to the next in our lives. It does not mean I don't have to despise the idea that I love cooking, but I don't get to cook every day. I can simply appreciate the fact that my schedule would be way more hectic if I was preparing 2 or 3 meals a day every day. So in that, we have to sometimes when we're moving on to the next season in our lives, it means we missed something, but we don't have to grieve over it to the point that we can't enjoy the season that we're in. So that is something that I wanted to share. Enjoy it while you have it. Don't complain about it while you're doing it. Whatever it may be. I'm not even just referring to cooking, just whatever it may be. And when it's time to move on to the next season, remember the joys of yesteryear, but don't neglect the joys of today. Whatever it may be, just allow your blessing to be a blessing and leave it at that. So I wanted to share that again. I don't quite know how that even fits in, but I really did feel pressed to share that, and I hope someone will be blessed by that and take that. So, with that being said, one of the things that we want to talk about today is us having the same judgment. Of course, that's something that in this ministry we've talked about in different fellowships. We hear it in sermons and things like that, the importance of that. And I just want to say this, for us as wives, as sisters, as women of God, it is important, really, really important that the Word of God has final authority in our judgment on things. We must share the same judgment, especially because we're around each other all the time. And this will go for anybody in any congregation. Wherever you have been planted, you need to be of the same mind and of the same judgment so that things are moving forward and going smoothly and just simply going the way that they need to go. So there's less friction, there's less confusion, there's less miscommunication when we're just of the same judgment. And as I was thinking about that sentiment, one of the things I realized is that there's just simply varying degrees of judgment, how we see things. And that's what I really, really want to hone in on today, is that we need to be able to see what's wrong with what's wrong, or see what's right with what's right. But today we're going to talk about seeing what's wrong with what's wrong because, and this is somewhat of what the good cop, bad cop is born out of between husband and wife. Because a husband might see a child do something in a particular manner, and he may have an extreme quick reaction like, no, absolutely not, don't do this, this is unacceptable, whatever the case is, however he may respond. But the wife might just be like, okay, yeah, don't do that, no big deal. Well, those, just in how I described it, are two completely different reactions. But if that child is going to enjoy the benefit of having balanced parents and parenting, that husband and wife has to be on the same page. Their judgment has to be the same. That means the degree of how they judge things can't be that far apart. I know that men and women think differently, but if a woman is submitted to her husband, then her judgment about things should not be that far off from his. Even if she don't understand it, she should be able to easily accept it and move along with him. It should not stop her in her tracks and have her thinking like, well, I don't understand this. Well, I don't understand your reaction. Why did you react that way? Rather, if she knows that her reaction was less than her husband's, or such a far off from the degree of his, and what she should be saying is, why did he react that way and why didn't I? Why am I so far away from his thought pattern in this? And then you move to find out, let me see, how are you seeing this? Because I didn't have the same reaction that you did, and I need to make sure I'm on one accord with you. And I'm not obviously not talking about questioning and trying to get your husband to explain anything to you. I'm saying sincerely having a mind to recognize, wait a minute, I'm not on one accord with my husband because I had just a completely different response to this. I'm way on the other end. Like, it didn't even seem like that big of a deal to me. So I need to see what he's seeing. I need to see it the way he's seeing it so that I'm not missing things in the future, so that I will know how to look for things, or at least have a mind to support his reaction in things so that I'm not going against it, or that I'm not dumbing it down when he's not around. So these are just different things as we look at the varying degrees of things. Of course, it creates a conflict in the children. They will always, always, always lean towards the parent who's not really reacting that much. Don't see the big deal. Okay, all right, so you did something wrong. Let's just move on. We're not going to address it. We're not going to talk about it. We're not going to do anything about it. I'll just watch and see if you do it again another 3 times this week. And then maybe I'll talk to my husband. And that's oftentimes what that leads to, is just overlooking. And I think sometimes we might want to call it grace. I tend to lean more towards lazy parenting, that if I say something, then that means I might have to follow through. If I follow through with some type of discipline, then that means I have to watch you to make sure it's actually happening. And then you start to calculate, oh, that's going to take up too much of my time. And so it's easier for me to just give you grace, because I don't have to be so invested in making sure you learn a lesson in it. Sometimes it's that you really just don't even see the wrong in it. It's not that it's not a big deal. You just don't see the wrong in it. Children are children. This is what they do. No big deal. One day they'll grow out of it. Except the Bible tells us to train up our children in the way they should go. So they have to be trained in the way. They don't just grow up and grow out of things. They have to be trained out of it or trained into it. So we have to see the importance of being on one accord, but not just being on one accord to be able to say, hey, this is wrong, but actually having a mind to correct what is wrong and correct it in the manner that your husband would correct it. And of course, you all know when we do these bridesmaid series, when I say husband, it could be interchangeable with whoever your male authority is, whoever you're submitted to. So making sure that our mindsets are there, that we are not straying away from parenting responsibly out of convenience, because then that could set things way off down the line. Oftentimes we don't see the effects of how something is going to happen, how something is going to be affected 5 years from now, because we're doing what's convenient for us right now. But here's the thing, and this is pretty much what I'm describing. If a woman is disconnected from her motherhood, and that is, I see things, but I'm really not going to deal with it. I see a lot of things. I see things that are wrong. I see things that didn't really work out for me when I was a child. I see things kind of going wrong, but maybe I'll deal with it later. Maybe, I don't know. I just don't want to deal with it today. And that is a sign of being disconnected from motherhood, because as mothers, we are supposed to have, we might hear it called a motherly instinct, where we catch things, we see things, we are not only catching things and seeing things that could be out of order, but we're also looking at the future of what it is we see in our children, and what is that going to look like 5 years from now, 10 years from now, when they're adults. If we are thinking as mothers that we're preparing our children for marriage, we're preparing them for that graduation, that one thing that helps us completely move into our true person, what we were designed and created to be, if we're really preparing them for that, then we are also going to be watchful of them to find out, are they on a path that's really leading them there? That's the motherly instinct. And oftentimes, when that motherhood hasn't kicked in, we're disconnected from that for whatever reason. There are so many different reasons. The parental insight is also not there. That's when a mother, and I could use myself as an example. I was disconnected from my motherly instinct when I allowed, our two oldest daughters to go play basketball. It's like I'm not thinking about how this could affect you negatively in your femininity. See, I wasn't thinking about that. I should have been able to see that, but I did not. So that's just an example of that. But what happens, the parental foresight to guide her decisions for children is not there. So I'm going to list one example that I am going to probably just finish out this discussion with, because I have several, but I don't want to pack too much in one discussion. I want us to really pay attention to this. If I ask the question, what is the number one thing that women all over the world, no matter what their cultural background, no matter what their educational level, no matter what their experience is, the one thing that women all over the world will have in common that they struggle with? You all think. And I want you to raise your hand. I'm going to say a word or a phrase, and I want you to raise your hand if what I'm saying is either directly what you thought or associated with what you thought. Insecurities about how they look. Insecurities about their weight. Insecure about who they are, whether or not, and when I say insecure, that could be, feeling rejected, not accepted, all of those wonderful things. Okay, did you raise your hand? Okay, so I saw one hand. I don't know if anybody else raised their hand. You raised your hand. Okay, thank you. So two people raised their hand, and that is precisely right. That is the one thing that most women, it's a weight thing. It's, how do I look? Do I look good enough? Am I the right size? All of these things that women deal with. Am I too small? Am I too big? It's never ending that they deal with. But I'm going to give us mothers, I'm going to give us some tips about one of the things that we can do in everyday life that deals with this. And this is not, we know we have the father-daughter relationship where the father, confirms a daughter. We have the mother-daughter relationship where she's going to give her the rite of passage into adulthood, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about some of the micro things that happen along the way where when we have been disconnected, we can miss these things. And I am going to share this one thing, and this is the eating habits that we teach our children. And I want you all to just pay attention to what I'm saying, because oftentimes when we allow our children at 2 years old, 4 years old, 6 years old, 8 years old, when we allow them to eat, we are not thinking that this is going to be directly connected to them not being able to be a wife when they are 18, 20, 24 years old, because they've picked up something along the way. We're not thinking, what does this have to do with this? Oftentimes, I have seen where children are allowed to just snack all day long. All day, just whatever. They just have free access to the pantry, to the refrigerator, or maybe to a bowl on the table. And if you want it, just go and get it. Whatever it is you want, your child. This is what children do. What's the big deal? Some people, maybe the husband don't agree, and they just allow it in his absence under the guise of, well, they were hungry. And you can find any number of reasons. I gave them a light breakfast or, whatever the case is. And we find reasons to feed that appetite. When I say eating habits, I've seen, and I've even gone through a point in my life, I won't disassociate myself with this, where I have overeaten at times, or maybe a period in my life where I was overeating. There is such a thing as a portion that is fit for a lady, and that is different from what is fit for a man. It's an interesting thing. We had a guest who came in from the UK just recently, and we were out. I don't know if we were shopping or eating. I can't remember now. We may have been shopping, and she was just kind of explaining, as they went through the store and looked for certain items, and we talked about what they eat and things like that. One of the things she explained to me was their culture is that if they're not only at home, but I mean, not only at a party, if there's some gathering or something like that, some fellowship, the ladies don't eat the meat for breakfast. That's safe for the men. And I thought, that is very interesting. And I was like, why not? And that's just our culture. It's more fitting for a man to eat the heavier things, and the ladies are going to eat something like fruit or bagels or something very light. And I thought that is just an interesting take on the differences that they've noted, and the length to which they will go to maintain that femininity. So they may be at a gathering and the ladies will have a dainty portion, and you'll see the men. And do you know what meat she named just for the breakfast? She said bacon. They won't even eat bacon. If they're having a breakfast fellowship, they don't eat bacon. It will be something as light as toast or a pastry, fruit, maybe oatmeal. Just something I took note of. That there is a difference, and it's not just here. Apparently it's that way in the UK also. But we should see a difference. But if we allow our children at a very young age to have no boundaries in that, and we're still talking about having the same judgment, because when we're talking about training up our children to be ladies, to be princesses, to be married one day and be a wife, one of the main things that is going to attract their husband to them is their femininity. Outside of their godliness is their femininity. And I can tell you that the insecurities that women deal with all over the world, it starts with that. The lack of discipline that we show them when they say you can have whatever you want whenever you want it. Just feed yourself until you're full, until you're miserable oftentimes. Eat the sugar until you're sick. And then you don't even want the dinner, but you want another snack after you've played with your vegetables. And we're teaching them something, it's a habit that we teach them that will lead them to be insecure later. We look at our children and we think, oh, they're so thin, they're so, they have all this, their metabolism is high, they can afford to eat these things. Except obviously you get older and that stuff catches up with you, but not only that, it catches up with our character. Because when we've been taught at home that we can have whatever it is we want, as if it won't affect us, then we just expect that in the world. And what it also causes us to do, like I said, that lack of discipline and lack of self-control. I don't want to put anybody else before me. I just simply want what I want right now. And it's something that we won't connect to eating, but it absolutely is a connection to it. And I can put some other things in there, but we're going to deal with eating because there's so much that goes into it. One of the things that, and I'll use Claire as an example. I thought, Claire is only 2 years old. That's our youngest granddaughter. She's only 2 years old. And I had to teach her to take small portions. So at her age, although she could eat off of a regular actual teaspoon, I still have her eating off of the baby spoon that she first started eating off of when she was like 7 months. Because I want her to understand portion control going in her mouth. She should not have food falling out of her mouth. Her jaws should not be filled with food. She should not be struggling to chew. So I quickly found out if I don't want her to practice that, I need to give her a smaller spoon so that she might not know the difference between the spoons, but I know the difference between the amount that she can fit on the spoon. So by default, she's learning this lesson. These are the types of things when I say we are training our children, we have to train them to be ladies. And I want to say this. I didn't grow up being trained to be, real feminine and a lady in that manner where somebody told me about how to eat and things like this. And I may have shared this before. But I can tell you that there came a point that I understood it was important, and I was almost an adult, maybe early adulthood. When I say, I guess somewhere 17, 18 years old, and I began to practice that. So this is one of those things where we don't say, well, I've spent my whole life eating like this, and this is just who I am. But I'll tell you, if we can examine ourselves, and let me just say this, I haven't sat down and watched any of you eat recently. I'll say that. I'm not going to say that I didn't notice something, years ago, but just recently, what I'm saying is not because I saw somebody eat and I'm just trying to tell you to change the way you're eating. But we need to examine ourselves, because what we're doing is what we're training our children to do. I remember one time when Claire was only about 8 or 9 months old, and I would just, snack on something here and there throughout the day. And I saw her watching me one day, and I thought, I probably better cut all this snacking out, because she's going to think that all you do is eat all day long. Like this is life, just eating, because I'm always just popping something in my mouth, just a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And literally, I came to this conclusion, like I don't want her to just see me doing that, because I don't want to train her to do that. We have to be honest with ourselves about wherever we are. And wherever we are, we can all grow from that point. And that's the truth. We can grow from that. But we have to be consciously aware of what it is we're training our children. And so this is our assignment from this discussion. Number one, let's take note of how we are, what habits we are practicing when it comes to eating, and what it is we're training our children to do. Are the things we're training them to do going to lead to insecurities? Let me tell you where another insecurity comes from. No woman wants to feel like she's not chosen. But I can tell you, if she have bad eating habits that have led her to have no discipline, no boundaries, to be self-consumed, where she's always looking to feed her flesh in some manner, not having the ability to really put others before herself, then she's going to look manly to a man. So a man could be interested. But if she's displaying these things, it would be easy for a man to pass over her. Because we know that it's not just the physical beauty that's going to attract the man, it's the femininity, it's what's coming out of that beauty. Do you know how to sit? Do you know how to talk? And, I don't want to get too much into to some of those other ones, but do you know how to eat? Do you know how not to overindulge in things that are not good for you? And so we need to really pay attention to how we are training our children. What messages are we sending them, and are we setting them up to be insecure? Because even the overeating, and I didn't really say too much about that, but the overeating, The insecurity will show up in weight. There is such a thing, and I think, my husband freed me years ago with worrying about my weight when he said something along the lines of, there comes a point where we see exactly what weight we're supposed to be, we're having children, and we just go into adulthood, and there's a size that we will be that is our natural size. Notwithstanding, that does not include all the sugary snacks and drinks that we add to that, and all the desserts, the cakes and ice cream and all. That's not a part of it. Some of us may be naturally bigger than others. We may gain weight. We're not going to all be our size that we were in high school and all of those things. And, none of that's super important. But what is important is that we understand, because I have seen a lot of women will complain about their weight, but they won't take the necessary steps to just not overindulge in the things that are causing them to gain weight. So again, if we teach our children to overindulge at 2, 3, 4, 5 years old, just eat this because it feels good to your flesh, they're going to struggle when they become older and they're adults. They're going to struggle with that. They're not going to be able to turn away the plate of food or the extras or the extra snacks. But then what happens is when they go into adulthood and they get married, that insecurity that they learned as a child, they then want the husband to fix that. And that's a never-ending cycle of, I'm not happy because my husband is not doing XYZ, because what happens is when a child learns at an early age to not be disciplined and to consume things upon their flesh, they want other people to feed their flesh as well. And that's what plays out in marriage. Make me happy by buying me this. Make me happy by doing this. Make me happy. Except you're not going to be happy until you are fully being the person that God designed you to be. That does not come with getting a husband or being married or getting children. You have to first be okay with who you are and accept that part of you and do something to protect it. When we're insecure and we move into adulthood, it ruins relationships. These are the things that we're not thinking about. If we're disconnected from motherhood, we're not thinking about how giving our children the extra snacks or sneaking them something is going to teach them to ruin relationships in the future. It's going to keep them from getting married. It's going to make them be a little bit more manly than they should be, because they think, I can eat a second, a third, a fourth helping and then have a snack and just continue to consume things upon my flesh. So we need to make sure, and I'll say it this way, that we are not disconnected, that we reconnect with whatever we may have been disconnected from, and we see the reality of how the things that we do or the things that we're training our children in and how that will affect them in the future. So again, that's our assignment for this week. And we can maybe come back and talk about what you found. What are we really training our children to do? And are we setting them up that in the future they're going to deal with unnecessary insecurities, that they're going to ruin relationships unnecessarily because we're not all of the same mind and not all of the same judgment about these things? What is the same mind and what is the same judgment? Let's make sure we are teaching our girls to be ladies. Let's make sure that we're teaching them, how to be proper. If we see, I'm just going to use Claire again as an example. I started giving her a napkin with her food, I don't know, maybe a year ago, so I'm not quite sure how long ago. And I watched one day that I was sitting at the table, and I try to make sure I sit with her so that she can watch me eating, because children observe. And I watched her one day. I picked up my cup and I sipped some water, and then she picked up her cup and sipped some water. And I picked up the napkin and wiped my mouth, and she picked up her napkin and wiped her mouth. And then I went to eat, and she started eating. It just really opened up my understanding to, I don't know, maybe not my it broadened my perspective to how much children are watching even when we're not watching. So she will get a napkin to wipe her mouth because what I found her doing, and this is what made me start doing it, she felt food on her mouth and she wanted it off. And so her natural response was to take her hand and wipe it off. I'm like, okay, I don't want you to do that. So what do? I gave her a napkin. And so now she uses it as she's eating. And I'm saying this because she's 2 years old. I don't know if she fully understand it all, but she got the concept that if I feel something on my mouth, I'm going to take this napkin and wipe it off. So we can train our children. We don't have to beat it into them. We don't have to fuss it into them. We just have to be the example. That's all. So we need to pay attention to what it is we're doing and see where we might need to make any changes so that we are training up ladies and princesses who are preparing to be queens for their king, as we just heard in the recent message. So that is what I want to share with us today. I am going to go ahead and say this one last thing. And of course, we talk about service and the fact that we were born to benefit somebody else. Our life is meant to have a positive impact on somebody else's life. And when I say our life, that includes the thoughts we entertain, the attitudes we have, our reactions and responses to people, the words that we use, everything. It is meant to have a positive impact. And I want to say this, my life having a positive impact on somebody else's life does not always mean that I'm going to see that impact right away. And I may not see it at all until I go into eternity. That's when I might know how I truly impacted somebody. But if we at least know and accept the fact that we are not here to serve ourselves or to live for ourselves, we will always have a mind and a heart to live for other people and asking the Lord to let us impact other people's lives. So let's just end it with this. Our service should extend beyond our home and the people that we know or feel closest to. Expand your circle, expand your area of service, whatever that might be, whatever it is you are giving, make sure it's reaching somebody that can't give back to you in a sense. Make sure it's not just an exchange of goods and services for, I know that I can count on you to do XYZ for me, so I don't mind doing this for you. We have to move beyond that type of service and let our love show through our actions, our attitude, again, our thought patterns, even the things I think on is going to impact the people around me. If I'm thinking on negative things, I'm going to have a negative vibe about me. I'm not going to have a very good attitude, and it affects the atmosphere of the people that I'm around. So we need to think about all of these things and how we can really truly serve those around us and fulfill our purpose for which we came here. Because, our purpose and our presence in this earth, again, it is meant to impact and have a great positive impact on people. So let's make sure that we have a mind to serve, but to do it from a place of love, not out of obligation, and to expand whatever we think we've already done to serve somebody. Always look for ways, and I don't mean us coming up with ways. When we live for God with our whole heart, He will always lead us into opportunities to serve people, things that we can't even think of, things that we don't know are even a great blessing to somebody. Just like what I shared earlier when we got started. When people first say, hey, could I cook a meal for you? Could I do this? I was fully capable of cooking every single day if I needed to. But now the way the ministry have changed and is changing, and the amount of responsibility, even having a toddler to care for, it has changed drastically. And so it's like, yes, I appreciate that. I did not know back then that how much of a blessing it would be, and so I appreciate that. And so and I'm saying that to say that whoever volunteered to do that could not know, because they're not with me every day. They don't know how much they're impacting my life, but it is a great impact still. So sometimes you may not know the magnitude, because my thank you, I enjoyed dinner, it was really good, don't really do justice for what it's doing for my everyday life for you to do that. So we may not always know. So we can't always look for accolades. We can't look to, for the pat on the back. We can't look to be acknowledged all the time. We just have to allow the Lord to lead us to do things, and know that if the Lord is leading us, it will impact somebody's life in the way that it is supposed to. So we'll just go ahead and close out with a word of prayer. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you. We praise you for this day, Lord God, and we thank you for everything that we have discussed here today. We pray, Lord, that you will lead us in how we train up our children, even in how we are being wives, so that we can do all things in a manner that's pleasing to you. And we also pray, God, as we leave this place on today, Lord, that you will be with us, that you will give us traveling grace. In Jesus Christ's name we pray. Amen.